Hey guys, this is Jake, and I'm a little bit late to the CIVIVI party, but here I am. This is the CIVIVI Baklash, my first CIVIVI review. For those of you who aren't aware, CIVIVI is a brand made by We Knives, and for those of you who aren't aware of We Knives, it's one of the top knife brands coming out of China these days. They make some really high-end, really good quality knives, and they decided to try their hand at a budget line. So the CIVIVI knives came out in the last half of 2018. Baklash is one of their first knives, and what we have is a very comfortable, basic, full-size folding knife as a liner lock. We've got a Chinese steel, we've got anodized liners, we've got some good stuff going on here, and I think you should be interested in the full review of this thing, so stick around. If you saw the unboxing, you would have seen that with the knife comes this pouch, www.civivi.com, and it's got a nice layer of, softness inside, I guess, for lack of a better word. Comes with a little microfiber cloth that says CIVIVI on it, and a decent zipper. So that's a kind of nice thing to have included with it, especially when you consider the price of these knives. How much do they cost? They're $42.50 US. That's a rough equivalent on the day of posting this of around $55.75 Canadian, $55.75 Canadian, or around 37 euros, or around just under 33 pounds, as of the end of October 2018. So that's actually a very good price for a knife that's produced at a factory like the We factory makes knives. And, they've got some nice professional kind of touches. We're going to talk about this pivot pin. There's something going on here that I've not seen on a different budget knife before. We've got anodized liners. And when we do the inside shot or the take apart shot, you'll be able to see those and see all the skeletonizing. So that's a good thing. So it's a relatively straightforward liner lock design. Lockup is solid. Lockup is exactly where I like a brand new knife to be. I'll show you a picture of that. There's no blade play side to side, up and down. There's a good set of steel ball bearings in there. Alignment, perfect, right down the middle. I have taken this apart and cleaned it up, and the action is even smoother now that I've cleaned it up. And all that I did was I added a tiny bit. I cleaned out the lubricant that was in there and have a tiny bit of lubricant that I put in there. Yes, some of you guys are asking what kind of lubricant I use. I'll do a video about that, talk about that separately sometime. But on this particular knife at this time, I used a fishing rod gear oil, which is a very light oil, and it's designed to work very well in outdoor conditions, especially where it can get wet. So, that's one of the reasons why I like fishing reel gear oil. G10 handle scales, nicely milled on the edges here, just slightly chamfered, sort of a hollow ground style of chamfering right here. So it comes down a little bit, nice on that edge. It's a little hard to see exactly where the lines are until I pivot it just right. So you can see how that's designed. There's no jimping anywhere except for a tiny bit on the flipper tab there and on the back of the blade here. And on the back of the blade here, I really like that jimping because it's actually like a sort of a bowl shape right there where it goes deeper. And so the thumb, my thumb rests right in there. So the whole thumb gets that little bit of extra grip on the jimping. If I use it this way or if I use it this way, it benefits from, that shape and that extra bit of grip that gives. So that's a very good thing. The forward choil is exactly the right size. It's not too big, not too small. Slightly chamfered edges here. So it's, nice and smooth. Really, really good job. We've got a swedge on both sides. It's sort of like a cross between a harpoon and a drop point style blade. Nice big swedge down here. And then you got this hollow grind coming up. So fairly strong tip on this blade. 9CR18 MOV stainless steel on this blade, which is a Chinese steel, which unfortunately a whole lot of guys, when CIVIVI first came up with this, reviewers start talking, hey, that's like 440C, and no, it's not. A lot of guys that don't usually do budget knives end up getting a little bit confused sometimes when they're looking at budget knives. 440C is different. This steel is very much like 440B, which is inferior to 440C. But this one is actually slightly superior. So it's sort of like if there's 440B here and 440C here, it's sort of in between the two. In between 440B and 440C is this 9CR18 MOV. Now, if you were having this knife made of 99CR18 MOV, that's a whole lot like 440C, but this isn't 99, this is just 9CR18 MOV. One of the cool things is you can't see any writing on this knife, can you? Nothing about the name. You've got the logo right there. The C for CIVIVI is right in that design there. And there's a very, very tiny bit of writing right in there, and all it says is 9CR18 MOV. We've got Torx 8 for the thumb stud, for the pivot stud, which is nice. And then these two body screws here that hold in the little bit of back spacer you've got here, those are T8 as well, and very, very nice. Very high tolerance on these screws. And then there's two T6 screws there, not as quite high tolerances there. I put the screwdriver in there and it has a fair bit of play on the pocket clip screws. Don't know why, but these other screws here are done very well. I like how they're inset, so you can't, well, you can just barely feel them when you roll your finger across there, but you're feeling as much of the little hole that they're in as the screws themselves. So I really like that. And that's a very well done screw there too. So let's show you the inside pictures of this knife taken apart. Those ball bearings are excellent. Now, take a look at these two pictures. This is this side, this piece of G10, and this pivot pin. Did you notice that little bit of a cutout there? That stops it from being a free spinning pivot screw. I haven't seen a different pivot do it that way, and that way really works. One of the good things about it is, they've got the C facing just that way every single time. So that's kind of nice. And then they did the blade, they did the sanding, so you've got your satin there. I didn't mention the satin finish on the blade on that hollow grind. That's really nice. The pocket clip is right or left. And that's pretty much everything. Let's do the sizes now. I only wrote down the metric sizes, so I'll put the inches on the screen as well. Cutting edge is 8.03 centimeters. Blade length, so G10 to the tip, is 8.82 centimeters. The blade thickness is 2.9 millimeters. The blade depth is 2.75 centimeters. The thickness of the edge behind the grind, beautiful, 0.36 millimeters. So nice and thin. And one of the great things about hollow grinds is that you can sharpen it many times before it gets thicker behind the grind. So that's a good thing. The grind angle. Now let me get this right. Okay, here's the side that says 9CR18. This side is at 16.6 degrees, and this side is at 22.4 degrees. I was one of the guys that introduced the knife world to checking how thin the steel is behind the grind, because that is important, although some people are still in denial about that. Just imagine putting an axe blade on this knife and sharpen it to the same final angle, but see if you can put that through a piece of paper as compared to this. The thickness does matter. Now, what I'm also saying is it does matter what angle this is sharpened at. One of the biggest things about why it matters is when I go to sharpen this now afterwards, and I want to put it at 20 degrees per side, on one side, I'm going to have to take steel off the tip of the cutting edge, and on the other side, I'm going to have to take off steel on the shoulder, and until I've got enough steel down on both sides to make them even. Unless I go for trying to copy the 22.2 and the 16.6. And so that's a waste of steel. I want factories to get on it and start putting their knives at really close to 20 degrees per side. I think it can be done. I think they need pressure to do that. Oh, I didn't finish talking about everything. The handle length. Handle length is 11.9 centimeters. Grip area is 9.5 centimeters. The handle thickness is 1.29 centimeters. The handle depth, biggest right here, 2.6 centimeters. And the knife depth with it closed is biggest right there, 3.35 centimeters. The total length of the knife with the blade deployed is 20.55 centimeters. It weighs 114 grams, 4 ounces on the nose. Let me put the balance point here. The balance point is a little bit back compared to what I like. I would like it to be about here, and it's right there. Not bad, really. It's just a little bit back. Great hand feel, like I said. Pinch grip works great. Sneak up choil grip works great. Reverse grip back here works great. Traditional fist grip works great. However you want to hold this knife, very comfortable in hand. The texture on the G10 is just good enough to be grippy without being aggressive at all. Very, very good knife. Now I'm looking for cons for this knife, and it's really, really hard to find any. At this price, I'm not surprised that they're going with a cheaper steel. It helps them sell these knives because the competitors to these are selling their knives at $52. That's one of the competitors, whereas these are $42.50. So almost $10, $9.50 less when you're talking $50. That's 20% less money this knife is than some of the competitors that are competing directly with these guys. And then there's other brands, and they all and they all seem to be just a little bit more money than these are from the different Chinese brands. Does this knife have a spot in the market? Does this brand CIVIVI have a spot in the market? Well, I think so. I want to see more from CIVIVI. I paid full price for this knife to do this review. And so it's going to take me a while to save up a few more shekels to get another one of these. Hopefully I can find somebody who'll work with me and get some to me at a lower cost. But I really want to see if I'll be able to recommend these guys as above some of the other brands out there. The workmanship on here, totally get it. They've got as good as workmanship as the brands that they're competing with. The only thing that brings this a little bit below is I don't like 9CR18 enough to beat out those other knives. But this costs less. And so it does beat out the other knives, in the price range. And so you have to do that balance. You have to decide, do I want to spend less and get a little bit less of a knife? Or do I want to spend a little bit more and get a little bit more of a knife? And the only difference in those is the steel on the blade. But, do I like this specific style better than what the other brands are offering? Well, then I'm going to buy this one. So you really have a tough time making a decision in this market. It's a really tight market right now. And I'm glad that this market space is becoming tighter, because it took until 2016 or 2017 before the bigger companies started taking this price range seriously, this low budget price range. And I am excited about that. So check out the CIVIVI. I recommend it. Not 100% fond of the steel, but it cuts quite well. This is the factory edge. And cutting this really light magazine paper. You saw a couple little catches perhaps. So I'm trying to push cut, keep it in the same spot. Slicing, of course, works great where you're feeding a new part of the edge onto the blade. And, you know, this is the factory edge. I haven't stropped it, haven't done anything to it. All I did was measure the edge. So they're doing a really good job giving you a sharp edge to start with. You know, the nail neck test, it just catches on the neck and won't slide, catches on the nail and won't slide. And it just creates tiny little notches in the nail. And that's a really good thing. So they've done a really good job with making it sharp. You know, I'd like better angle control, but it's sharp and it looks good. Nice anodization, nice skeletonization in there to make it light. Pocket clip is right and left and not just right. And actually there is a little bit of jimping here on the liner, the release for the liner lock. You can see that right there. Whoa. Let's make these lights a little bit brighter here. So you've got just that little bit extra. So you can see right there that your thumb can get on there to release it. Works very, very well. Action is super smooth. It was smooth from the factory, but it's super smooth now. So right or left, this knife is comfortable, easy to use, good size. I recommend it. I forgot to show you how well it sits in the pocket, so I got to do that. Goes in the pocket all the way to the bottom. Fairly well, not much sticking out. Just hides out in the bottom of the pocket without being very visible at all. So I like that quite a lot. Holds on well. It doesn't get hot in the hand. The pocket clip doesn't. So it's a good designed pocket clip. I like it quite a lot. I forgot to say one thing before the end. It comes in 3 colors. You've got this tan sand, whatever you want to call it. That OD green, that military type deep green, or black. So thanks for watching my video. I've got links down below where you can buy this knife or other CIVIVI knives. Thanks for watching, liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing, and remember guys, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb.